Today we're going to be looking at the Pokemon World Championship topping deck lists, and we're just going to be talking a little bit about what went down 2 weeks ago at the Pokemon World Championships for the Pokemon trading card game. Stay tuned, guys. So before we begin with this video, I just want to say thank you guys for checking out my recent video on quintessential quintuplets, where I was retooling one of the two ways to look at and salvage the 8 standby deck. We're going to be doing a Bunny Girl Senpai post ban list video after next week, but I wanted to showcase a quick discussion on how the Pokemon World Championship happened, how did it go, and my overall thoughts behind it. I decided to wait 2 weeks after the event because I wanted to take the time to kind of digest what was going on, both with the Pokemon World Championship, the upcoming set that's coming out, as well as prepping for. I was also vending for the first time when the first day of Worlds occurred, so I will be doing a discussion later on. This will be another video, but talking about my experience vending for the first time, being a TCG vendor at trade shows and trade nights. But if you guys want to hear about that, please drop a comment below about that if you guys are interested in that. But for the main topic, we're going to be talking about the World Championship because it's been an interesting event, to say the least, because a lot of decks were favored to kind of take the championship. A lot of them being like Charizard, Dragapult, Goldango was also another favorite, and in fact it was actually a large amount of the representation. And the funny part is, as the Worlds continued on, and as the second and last day of Worlds continued, like, we got to see more and more of them falling off, mostly due to their bad matchups against Charizard because of Chi-Yu and other decks being able to kind of handle the Goldango matchup. But it's by no means a bad deck. It's actually a really strong deck, and it's a deck that everybody who plays Pokemon should be kind of wary of that matchup. But what ultimately won was actually Riley McKay's Gardevoir list, so we're going to actually take a quick look at it. He's a Canadian player. So his list is actually pretty standard. So he's running, but what I was surprised about was in his list was that everybody thought that, including myself, I thought that Jellicent would be slotted into the deck because being able to prevent your opponent from activating events and attaching tools such as like TM Devo, TM Evo, Maximum Belt is such a good Pokemon to play. But it does have the weakness of being a 3 retreat attacker, and so during times when you want to take it off the bench, it's very difficult, and you mainly want to use it early game just to apply some form of pressure. But from what I've seen in the results and seeing how Riley McKay played it, I do kind of see why he felt like it was not necessary. And what's interesting is that item lock, even though how strong it is with Badoo, I've been noticing it lately, has been becoming less and less popular and less like prevalent as people are learning how to play around it. And but me personally, I like to have the item lock available if your deck can run it, just because of the fact that yes, there are ways to play around it moving nowadays, but you want it's a good skill check against very, very beginning players or very bad players who don't know how to play around it, and it just helps you win those easy matchups quickly. And it's just a nice asset, but I do see the value of just streamlining the deck, especially when you're going through several dozen rounds at a time and you just want your deck to consistently get the game plan going. And that's the thing with Riley McKay's list, is that it's very streamlined For example, like the only thing different that I've seen is that he's playing 4 Monkey Dories. He's still playing the 3-2-2 of the routes to Gardevoir line, but I'm curious how it's going to change once Mega Gardevoir comes out and once we get the Mega Evolution set, because the psychic decks get a lot of support, and Gardevoir just becomes very much a strong contender for the best deck of the format. Like, it's already, in my opinion, the best deck of the format, but it just secures it even more with all the recent support that it's going to get. And it's actually kind of surprising because Gardevoir has been sticking around for about, this is I think the second year that this deck has been like tormenting the metagame. And it's kind of funny because most people were kind of getting irritated with Gardevoir because it kept getting to the finals of almost every regional. And the world's kind of just solidified, like, yeah, this deck is a threat, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. And what I especially like about this deck is how it takes advantage of the draw supporters and streamlines, like, overall just focuses on getting the psychic energy into the discard pile a lot, and trying to get the Gardevoir online so that way you can just spam the energy, putting on energy onto either your Flutter Mane, the Screamtail. And it's kind of funny that I don't see the what's his face, Drifloon in the deck. Instead I see Lily's Clefairy as an attacker. We have the Mew, we have the Flutter Mane, and then we have the Screamtail, which is kind of interesting in his list. I thought he would play one of the Screamtail Drifloon line, but it seems like he went for kind of a more streamlined approach, and it really did serve him well. Like, I saw most of his matches and it was just like, wow. And besides Gardevoir, another deck that also, like, we'll look at the second place, which was the Dusknoir Dragapult list. And I think the only reason why Dusknoir was seeing a lot of play was because the Psyduck promo that the Japan meta runs that allows you to kind of just nullify Dusknoir is not available, and it was not legal at Worlds because it wasn't available worldwide. So a lot of people had pretty much a field day running Duskulls and Dusknoir. I feel like once we get that Psyduck promo, though, the variant, the Duskull variants, or the Dusclops variants might start to go down, and you'll see decks like Dragapult just go back to like how we've been seeing played in the NAIC, the regional scene, which is just a pure Dragapult list or like a Dragapult Charizard list. So, but I do think that it's like the Duskull Dusknoir package is just that strong. It's a really strong engine. And like, it just proves it. And Badu is still a very strong basic Pokemon going second. You get Latias, you have Halucha, you have Fez, you have Ursaluna, and then one Monkey Door, which is kind of surprising. I felt like you would at least want 2, but it worked for this for the second place player, which was really nice. I even like the Hilda. Hilda is probably one of my favorite supports it's probably one of the best supporters in Black Bolt White Flare, because it just allows you to search for whatever you needed in your evolution line, as well as the energy that you need at the turn. And then he has taken advantage of obviously the Buddy Buddy Poffins and the Ultra Balls counter catchers, and then he's also playing Jamming Tower. I like the energy spread too. So like, this deck is actually pretty standard for a Dragapult Dusknoir list. I am kind of curious how this deck is going to evolve post Mega Evolution, because I do think Gardevoir is something that we should pay attention to and respect. So it is going to be an interesting one. And then obviously we also still have Shizuki Nakagawa with so the one that played the Dragapult is Justin Newdorf. We had Shizuki Nakagawa with his Raging Bolt Ogerpon, and it's pretty much the standard Terra package with, instead of playing 4 Teal Mask Ogerpon, he was playing 3. He's playing 3 of the Raging Bolt, so it kind of allows him to play the Baby Bolt. Also, the Fighting Koraidon. He has Diddle to help kind of replace, like, to bench either the Fan Rotom or possibly one of his EXs. He also has the Chanpal to pump stadiums. He has obviously the Latias, the Squawkabilly, and Pheasantipity. And then he's running his 11 energies, which is pretty standard. The one thing that I really like from his list is the one of Turo scenario, because there are going to be some situations where your opponent might try to set up a 2-hit KO, and just getting rid of either a weak EX that could be threatened by a follow-up attack for an easy 2 prize like Squawk or Fez is just really good. And if you know you're playing against a deck that is going to target down the Raging Bolt, like if they weaken, if your Raging Bolt is weak, you could just bounce it back and then just focus on your other attackers. So it's kind of interesting. I really like this list. Personally, I do not like Raging Bolt or even just for personal reasons. It's not a favorite deck of mine. I did play it for a few times, and I don't know how I feel about the deck. Personally, I feel like it's a very linear deck, but it does what it does. It does a good job at it too, which is why I said it's like Goldango. My feelings with Raging Bolt are very similar to Goldango. Is that both of those decks are very linear in terms of their game plan, but they do their job well and they deserve respect when being played. So like I don't mean to disrespect any people who like those 2 decks, but like I said, not my cup of tea. And obviously Charizard, Pidgeot, one of my favorite stage 2 decks. And he's running also like a very a slim Duskull line, which is really helpful, especially when you're trying to take advantage of Charizard's attack, which requires your opponent to have taken prizes. So you are able to soften up the target with the Dusknoir and then just KO it, get easy KOs with the Charizard. And then you're also taking advantage of Briar to help you kind of make up for the prize deficits, which is really nice. I'm kind of surprised there's no Hilda. Like instead he's playing Jacques. I feel like Hilda is a little bit better, because like if you get the rare candy and you just Hilda, like you can at least get yourself a mist energy to protect yourself. Like you get to search the mist energy and then you search the evolution, and then you get to just protect the Pidgeot or protect the Charizard, which is really nice. And he's playing. They decided to play Cleffa in this build. I would have played like a split between Cleffa and Badoo, depending on the scenario. Like if the scenario favors item locking, I'll just item lock my opponent. The Chiyu is pretty much the replacement to Radiant Charizard, and I feel like that's pretty much the perfect replacement. I would probably personally bump this to 2, just because if you prize one of them, you want to be able to have a secondary one against, especially the Raging Bolt matchup to take out the Ogerpons, or even the Goldango matchups, just to one-shot Goldangos really easily. So like just having an extra copy just so you can do that is very helpful. And then obviously their choice of A-Spec is the maximum belt, so you can take advantage of Charizard's just huge swings to knock out, to take easy knockouts. You also have Air Balloon, you have TM Evo. So it's pretty much a standard Charizard list, which I feel like the deck is going to be around until obviously when it rotates. So it's a really solid deck. And then we also have another Charizard Pidgeot list. And this is pretty much the same as the last one, with some minor tweaks in the items and supporters. But overall, I really like this list. It's just a really strong, and like Charizard is actually, in my opinion, like very underestimated during the World season, and even now moving forward, I feel like it's a strong deck that people should respect. Same with my least favorite deck in Pokemon, which is Goldango. Like I feel like the deck, Genesect makes the deck very kind of more brain dead than it, in my opinion, than it used to be. because now you just have an easy way to search out your Goldangles, and then you just draw with no no real downside to drawing. Like, at least with Zoroark, you have to discard a card to draw two, but like for Goldangle, it's like, even if it's in the active, you get to draw two, and then even if it's in the bench, you draw an additional one for free. And then like with things like Cypher Maniac's code breaking, you get to do it for free to just like draw two, like draw your necessary supporting cards. And then its attack is just discarding energy from your hand to nuke, to one shot an opponent. So like, don't get me wrong, I respect the deck. I give people mad respect for if they really like this deck. It's just, for me personally, I hate this deck with a passion, only because the game plan is just so straightforward, and like, you can't like it can easily play around being punished with hand disruption. Like, it's one of the few decks where hand disruption really doesn't hurt this deck that much. It's like Zoroark, also hand disruption for Zoroark isn't that bad, but like for Goldangle, like, they can get out of it much easier than a Zoroark player, because a Zoroark player still has to discard a card in order to draw two, so it's a 1-for-1. Meanwhile, like, they just plus one for free, so it's like, but you know what, it's still an amazing feat, especially for Piper Lapine, to get 7th place. So congrats to her, like, to get that far with the Goldango deck. I just personally don't like it, but what I'm happy about when I was watching the Worlds was how 2 Zoroarks kind of crept in out of nowhere, taking the top 8 and the top 8 spots. 2 top 8 spots, which is really nice. I love that deck to no end, and they're very different. So I'm gonna look at show you guys the 6th place Mateos's deck. I was actually trying to find his list until it became public. I asked a couple people, and I was able to get the list before it became more before Limitless got it. But honestly, I really like his list. Like, his list is very interesting, especially the use of Wellspring and Cornerstone Ogerpon. Something I am going to be messing around with, because it's very interesting, his list. I do happen to have a variant that I'm working on, because I do feel like there are 2 cards. There's a couple cards I would switch out, but overall, like, when I saw him running with this deck, it was nice. Like, way to rep my favorite deck, man, Mateus. I love Zoroark, and I'm just so happy that, like, so many people at my locals kind of flame me for playing this deck, thinking that it's a meh deck, but it's actually a really strong deck. You just have to know how to pilot the deck. It's a deck that requires you to actually, with a clear thought process, like, play the deck out meticulously, and it's a very strong mid-range deck, in my opinion. So I personally am happy as a Zoroark player to see my fellow devotees of the Zoroark showing that this deck is still a force to be reckoned with. So thank you, Mateus, and also thank you to Marco, because Marco Cifuentes, you literally gave me, like, you show people that this deck should not be slept on. And honestly, I'm very, like, happy that you and Mateus represent this deck very well. I love Zoroark to no end, and I like how I was thinking about playing the Toad's line just to give Goldango the middle finger with it, because being able to just prevent themselves from adding more energy back from the discard pile is just really good. Overall, I really liked how the world scene was panning out, and I'm kind of interested seeing how Pokemon's going to develop post the Mega Evolution set. I will talk about that once we get more data on it, and I will be doing I'll be doing some deck profile videos of the Gardevoir, the Dragapult, the Charizard line, and even Mateus and Marco's Zoroark decks. I'm gonna try to give it a test run on TCG Live later, but I just wanted to discuss about how Worlds was going and my overall thoughts on it. Honestly, I feel like we're in a pretty interesting format where skill expression, like how you sequence things, and the skill, the playability and the level of skill expression that is present within the current meta decks is actually, I feel like we're in a good spot. But I do understand why people don't like Gardevoir and Goldango. Like, honestly, I personally like Gardevoir. I don't like Goldango, but again, that's just me personally. But obviously, like, these decks should be respected, and I will probably do a tier list later on about post Mega Evolution. What are going to be the top 5 decks of that meta, or like I might do a tier list. I'm still thinking about it, but right now we're in a very interesting spot for the Pokemon TCG. So I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe. False crack that like button, and stay on point, guys. Peace out.